To me, six things come to mind when I think about Iceland. Number one, it's the land of ice and fire, so geysers, the famous Blue Lagoon geothermal area, and then bare landscapes in the tone of gray. Number two, it's Nordic people, so I expect friendly people with great welfare for their country, maybe a bit more introverts than an Italian, but let's find out. Number three, cold weather, particularly because I'll be going in late September, while the warmer weather usually is between July and August. Number four, food. I reckon fish for the most part. It's an island after all. Number five, it's the spectacle of the Northern Lights or Aurora Borealis, an event that can happen mostly in the northernmost and southernmost parts of the world. And I'm hoping that I'll be lucky enough to see it. And then number six, I actually don't have fun facts for Iceland, but I remember a volcanic eruption that happened a few years ago and halted the air travel between the Atlantic for a few weeks. With that, enough talking and let's find out. So I'm gonna try shark and the black death. Good luck. Terrible. It's okay. Cheers. Ah, it's cold. Woo. Woo. Okay, so Iceland was great. Now, let's try to connect the dots with the points I mentioned at the start of this video and see how my expectations fared against reality. So, number one, that's striking landscapes. I mean, it felt like being on the moon with so many lava fields everywhere. And then you also have the green grass mixing with the yellows and the reds of a changing season. And of course, they stand out against mountains full of snow and glaciers that are white, and then you have the blue sky. So, fantastic, fantastic places to visit. The number two, Nordic people, they were very friendly, especially when I said that as a tourist. I went through my quarantine, I did take my two COVID tests, and that they were both negative. And possibly interestingly to me, the share of foreigners in the country is actually quite high, with Polish people being the largest representation. And that happened because over the decades and as they moved for work, apparently there was no language requirement there, neither Icelandic nor English. Number three, the weather. And yes, Iceland was very cold. Now, the wind, though, the wind was the killer, and the only way I could protect myself was feeling like an onion, so wearing layers on layers and layers to protect myself. And that worked out, so fair enough. Number four, food, mostly meat and fish. You can actually see cows, horses, and sheep roaming around the island. And I also tried some extravaganza with whale and shark. Then number five, the aurora, the northern lights. Now that was a spectacle, and I was pretty lucky because the season to see the northern lights starts in mid-September, and I saw them a few times. Now, possibly a bit of a disappointment maybe compared to the photos that I saw on the internet, but the reality is that professional cameras actually capture the vibrancy and the colors of the aurora better than the human eye. Still, something I'll remember for life. And then number six, a few fun facts that I picked up while I was in Iceland. The first one is actually that the population was less than I thought, some 350,000 people, a third of which in the capital, Reykjavik, two-thirds overall in the capital region. Also, the Vikings, as they arrived in Iceland over the decades, they cut down trees, and so now only 1% of the whole island is covered in trees, and there are ongoing efforts to increase the percentage over the next few decades. Also, and that came as a surprise to me in such a cold country, but Icelandic people love their ice creams and going to the swimming pool, whether it's wintertime, summer, and I mean, fair enough. And lastly, something that I find very interesting about the name itself, so Iceland. As it turns out, the Vikings discovered both Iceland and Greenland, and they feared that someone would take those islands from them, and so to mislead them, what they realized is to name the better, arguably, of the two countries, the greener one, so actually Iceland, with the name of ice. So you have the land of ice, Iceland, while giving the better name, the more appealing name, to the actual land where you only have ice. So Greenland, which as we know is just plain ice, gets the better name. So that I found quite interesting. Now, to recap, maybe a couple of suggestions if you ever end up going to Iceland. The first one is do wear layers because it can get very cold. The second one is please make sure that you do the ring road, which is a paved road all around the island, and that allows you to visit all the major highlights. As you do that, get both a four-wheel drive car, because for as much as, yes, most roads are paved, there are some others where there is gravel, and then in connection with that, do get a specific sand and gravel insurance, because if your car gets hit and damaged, then you would need to pay for it. So it's quite smart to get the insurance, and most people do it. Other than that, that's about it. Again, I had a blast in Iceland, and please leave any comments and let me know of any questions. Other than that, I'll see you at my next stop. Ciao, ciao.